You're watching UBC, and we have budget conversations with industry captains. And this evening I'm joined by the chair of the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, His Excellency Elly Karuhanga, who's also the Consul of Seychelles to Uganda. Thank you so much, Chair, for joining me. Let's begin with what would be the Private Sector Foundation's highlights to the budget of the financial year 2020-2021.
This is a stimulus package that the government is coming up with post-COVID-19. And I'm quite happy that the government is robust and is shedding off the old ways and is beginning to work with private sector and has involved private sector in a substantial way. We've held a lot of meetings with the government, with the Minister of Finance, with the Prime Minister and his office. We've talked a lot with Minister of Trade and Industry. And in a way, we've engaged the Parliament, not as much as we would have liked to, but we've met committees of Parliament, we've submitted papers to them, we've written to His Excellency the President. At one time, we sent the first shot was 23 pages of proposals. Later on, we whipped them down so they can be managed and readable, user-friendly. And in the end, I'm beginning to feel confident that there is optimism that this budget, when it comes out, they will have considered a lot of private sector proposals. I don't know which is your interest today, Maurice, but one of the exciting ones for us is the involvement of local content. Yes.
I want to discuss that in detail. You've been the advocates for the local content bill and import substitution strategy. However, the economy also needs the foreign direct inflow to buffer the local industry. How do we strike that balance in order to avoid being protectionist or being viewed as protectionist?
Let me put things in a very simple layman language.
Yes.
Because I don't want to sound clever. Because economists and lawyers, we tend to talk on top of people's heads. When we export goods from Uganda to foreign markets, we earn money. And then when we import goods from foreign countries, we spend dollars, which we have earned. When we balance what we have exported and what we have imported, we have a shortfall of more than $3.2 billion, meaning we have to look for $3.2 billion from all over the place, which is not earned by us, and pay, and we end up in debt in order to import goods. So they call that a deficit. So we are short of 3.2 billion. Out of this coronavirus, government led by President Museveni has said, wow, let's do what we call import substitution. In other words, the $3.2 billion that we spend to import goods, which is more than we export, why don't we use that money and produce the goods in Uganda? And so they have revived the Uganda Development Corporation. They have put $1 trillion shillings in Uganda Development Bank in order to start doing business that can replace what we import. So private sector, in a conversation with the Minister of Finance, asked, what are those items that we spend $3.2 billion on? So he gave us a list after about 2-3 days. When we looked at the list, we couldn't believe that Ugandans are importing these things because they are doable. Yeah. Believe me, Bangladesh has done a program where they manufacture everything up to 95% of their needs. And so they have a huge export benefit. So they export more than they import, up to 95%. Bangladesh, with 160 or 190 million people, with all sorts of disasters, floods, weather, what have you. We have a lot more educated people. Yet we are exporting less than, we are importing more than we are exporting. So now, Parliament came up. This bill, which has been lying down in Parliament since 2017, on the 20th, 12 days ago to be exact, passed a local content bill to support Ugandans so that they can participate in import substitution, in manufacturing here. So the challenges that we have in doing that so quickly is, one, government determination to see this through. Because that's a political decision. Is the government ready, able and willing to support Ugandans to really do import substitution, to manufacture in Uganda, to add value to what we export? If government is determined to do that, it's a big shot in the arm. Two, will Ugandans buy what they produce, or will they prefer to buy what they import? Chances are that Ugandans can easily buy what they produce if what they produce is a good quality. And how do we know that this is a good quality? It must have a mark, a stamp of Uganda National Bureau of Standards that this is high quality. You can wear it and you can be very proud. And so Ugandans will not buy rubbish produced by Ugandans. They will buy Ugandan goods if those goods are of good quality. And that good quality must be certified by an organization that is capable of looking at what is imported, most of it counterfeit and fake, and what is produced by Ugandans. So we suspect that we need to get a complete resolve, and we in Private Sector Foundation are going to help work with Uganda National Bureau of Standards. We are going to work with Uganda Industrial Research. We are going to work with micro, small, and medium enterprises to improve their quality of work, to add value to what they grow in agriculture, to what they manufacture, so that we can be able not only to consume what we produce, but even to export what we produce, so that the markets abroad, which have given us import-free, tariff-free, duty-free, except for arms, in America, in China, in the whole of Europe, they are prepared to buy everything Ugandan, provided it is of good quality. And if we can add value, then surely the 3.2 billion that we import, not necessary. We can keep it. Once that happens, then you can see a dramatic change in our economy. Now look at the
bill itself. Why did it take so long?
Before even I go to the bill, the construction industry.
Yes.
Everywhere you go, people build their own roads. You go to Italy, their companies are building their roads. You go to UK, they build their roads. You go to China, they build their roads. You go to South Africa, they are building their roads. We, the development budget, our whole budget, 60% of it is for development. But 70% of that is spent, we give it away to import companies to come and do our roads, and our infrastructure. Now the local content bill is saying, make Ugandans subcontractors. There is a bill which has been lying in Parliament since 2017 on the construction industry. It has not come out. But thank God, the local content bill has encompassed some of those provisions that we have been waiting for since 2017. Now, if that were to happen, you imagine that Ugandans can build capacity to do roads in Uganda. Imagine how much money we would save in order to keep it here. So this local content bill is, for us in private sector, we look at it as the decision which President Museveni and his colleagues took to go to the bush and to liberate Uganda. This local content bill moved out of frustration by a private member, Nsambu. Clap, clap, clap for him and his group in parliament. They passed it unanimously. It is a revolutionizing story for us in local content. Look at it. We are about to produce oil and gas now.
Yes.
This year, Total president has announced that he will finalize the final investment decision. If Ugandans are going to participate and have these 26 sectors ring-fenced for Ugandans, then we are going to be participating in the $20 billion business. And frankly, this local content bill, I know there are people who are sabotaging it, and for good reason. Because if things stay the way they were, these foreign companies who come here, they do all this business. And of course, some of the Ugandans take advantage. Those who have sufficient influence, they get paid in blocks of flats or houses or suitcases.
Of cash.
Maybe. But so they would be unhappy that such a thing is happening because they don't even pay taxes, you know. So in our situation, we are arguing the president to please sign this bill. If there are mistakes, we'll sort them out
Along the way.
along the way.
With amendments.
But this is like when you went to Kabamba. Refusing to sign this bill is taking you back to Kabamba.
Yeah.
Or at least back to Katonga. So let's cross
The bridge.
this Rubicon.
Yes. Chair, there's been demand on your end, especially
Yes.
from the private sector,
Yes.
for tax breaks and exemptions. And at the same time, government needs money to spend to revive the economy. Of course, this explains the higher budget for 2020-2021. But in your view, what's the right balance between the stimulus and rising or raising government revenue to be able to have money to spend as a government?
Yeah.
What's the balance? Where would you see a balance?
Taxes must be paid. From biblical times, give Caesar what is due to Caesar. Jesus declared that. We must pay taxes. And we must not cheat taxes. That's important because otherwise the government wouldn't function, the roads won't be made, the schools, the hospitals, all these services that we enjoy. Security, you can imagine. The guys who patrol at night, up and down, they really need to wear boots. They need to protect themselves from weather. How are they going to give us security? They need to fight external enemies. We have to buy equipment to give them, to modernize our security and be at peace. And ward off our enemies. So we have to pay taxes. And anybody saying that private sector should not pay taxes is a dreamer. And we don't come from that school. In fact, in some of the developed countries, out of every 100 shillings, they take away 70 in taxes. But they give you so much that you complain, you become disgruntled, but you have free school, you have free medical, you have free this, you have free pension, you have free Unemployment benefits, you have free this. So by every 100 shillings, they take away 70. You are not so happy, but you can enjoy a social life that is equal for everyone. We do not pay that. I think we pay less than 20 for every shilling. So our taxation is still very attractive for foreign direct investors. That's why they like to come. That's why they buy our stocks in the Bank of Uganda. That's why they buy our treasury bills. That's why foreigners like to buy, because there the interest rates are almost zero. You pay the bank to keep your money. Here the interest rates are still very high, so people come to be here. But taxes, if they are excessive, and if they are only for a few people, and they are the same people being taxed over and over again, if the person puts up a hotel and he's taxed this year, one tax, next year they put 2 taxes there. Now there are 17 taxes on the tourism industry. Some of them, when you look at them, they are laughable. So how will the person who has invested in the hotels, how are they going to make money? So we are saying, no, broaden the people paying taxes, the tax base, and do not overtax a few people repeatedly. And that is where the danger is. Now, secondly, now that we're in this situation of
Yes, COVID-19,
most of the companies have stopped working. The hotels are closed. The airport is closed. The people driving taxis from the airport, bringing tourists, closed. The people with lodges up country, closed. The suppliers of food to this industry, they are not supplying the food, closed. So how are you going to tax them? We, the lawyers, our offices, we are not going. 30 lawyers were allowed to move around if they have cases. Our clients are not being serviced. So what's going to happen to the entire breadth and width of the entire business? How are we going to tax them? So we are saying, give us a tax relief. Taxes will be paid, but give us time. Let's recover, and we know our obligations, and we'll pay those taxes. Secondly, remove these penalties of delayed payment of tax, because it is the right thing to do. Because how can you penalize me for not paying taxes because I have a property around here and there are no tenants? My tenants all went back to Europe in the last KLM flight. So there is nobody staying in the properties. So how can I pay penalties for not paying taxes when the tenants are not paying? How can tenants pay when they are not working? So we are asking government, give government relief, and then people can pay. And those who had kind of not been able to prove, or were in court, or were what, give them a blanket
amnesty.
Declare, get the amnesty, and start paying their
afresh.
taxes within 60 days, within 1 year. Negotiated. So taxes must be paid, but taxes must not drive you out of business. It is worse with the micro, small, medium enterprises, because normally in Uganda it is proven case. 80% of them don't see life in their 3rd year since they started business. 80%. They die anyway. because lack of skilled manpower, lack of understanding what the business is all about.
Lack of bookkeeping.
Young people starting business, no bookkeeping. They don't know how to there's no financial literacy. They don't know how to manage the market. They try and try and try, and they collapse. 80% in normal life. Now with COVID-19, the situation is a little bit more dire, more challenging. And so we're expecting a lot of insolvencies. So we at the Private Sector Foundation are setting up an insolvency team. We have worked with the Ministry of Finance to be able to see those who are genuine, who were really doing their best to survive, and they were hit by lack of business. What can we do to lend them a shoulder to stand on and continue to be in business? And then we tell the tax person, hello, this guy, don't kill this guy. Don't kill him, because he will be dead and he will collect no taxes. Let's give them a breathing space. And so we need to collect those ones, aggregate them nicely, identify them, and present their case to the tax authorities. And I'm sure they would understand it. The country has been caught up in a situation, and we are not alone. It's all over the world. So we have to reorganize our strategy, our thinking, and here we must move together with the government. Because if the government comes with a whip, there will be nobody paying taxes. And they will be the ones shooting themselves in the foot. So we need to work with the government. It's difficult to work with the government from private sector. It's very difficult. They always say, this is a private sector-led economy. We government, we support the private sector. But actually, when you try to work with them, you realize that you have oranges and bananas. And we have another word we use. That we are just a cattle keeper, and the other guy is a meat dealer. So you have absolutely, you don't understand each other. What they really think is important is not what we think is important. And so this group of Private Sector Foundation, we are trying to cajole, to come closer to them, to explain to them. But they will be quick if they like the idea, they will pick it up, it was their idea, and they will implement it in the way you had not proposed to them. And so everything just gets muddled up. Maurice, we have a lot of work to do to get government to listen to us. Remember, government has got its branches. It has parliament, politicians, and then it has executive politicians who are ministers, and then it has the civil servants. And those are the ones with power. Believe me, we in private sector know where the power is. The power is not in parliament. The power is not with the executive. The power is with the civil servants. And no matter what presidential directives you get, and you can, I wish you could find out presidential directives and put them in a line and find out how many of those civil servants have not implemented, and intentionally. And it becomes so difficult. You know, one day,
yes,
President Mugabe came here, and I think it was a meeting of COMESA.
Yes.
So we're in Munyonyo, and the heads of states were there. And we chatted, they talked, we were listening, we were clapping. And then the president said, I think President himself said, let's break into small groups.
Yes.
And each head of state will sit with one table, whoever of their choice. So President Mugabe came and sat on a table where I was sitting. Because I had been agitating, I think I had just left parliament, so I was still having a lot of vigor. in the meeting. So I think President Mugabe said, I want to go and sit on that table where that guy is. So he came and sat. So I asked him, President Mugabe.
Why did you pick this table?
No, we welcomed him. We were very excited. We were very, very excited to have him on our table. So I asked him, how come after electing you for 5 years, you never implement your programs as your manifesto to the full? What actually stops you? He says civil servants. Then I asked him, but you are in charge, you are the one, why don't you sack them? He said, sack who? Civil servants. They were left there, they are called permanent secretaries. They're permanent. They were left there by colonialists. They are the new colonialists in Africa. They are untouchable. So I said, so what are you going to do? He said, before they know, they work. They said, this one has come. In 5 years, he will go back. And they will change and reshuffle him and bring another one. So they manage their affairs. So I said, what are we going to do? He said, nobody can do anything about civil servants. They have standing orders and they do what they want. And they don't show you that they are in power. And they laugh when you get out of the room. But we are hoping that now with this COVID-19,
yes,
all Ugandans together, civil servants, be them having so much power, cow in the districts, they will appreciate that if Ugandans are going to do import substitution, let them participate in the tenders. And if the tender is, if they don't know how to do the tenders, we are going to create incubation centers. Stambik is doing one, DFC is doing another one. Uganda Industrial Research Center is doing another one. Uganda National Bureau of Standards will do another one. Private Sector Foundation, another one. Skilling Uganda was going to take place. Ministry of Education, Skills, World Bank has given us money for that. We are going to skill Ugandans so they can prepare tenders and participate in these procurement processes by CAWOS, by PPDA, all these organizations which have always never identified ideologically the importance of a Ugandan businessman.
Thank you, Chair.
Civil servant, power, irrespective.
Thank you,
This
Chair.
time we are appealing to them to be part of us. They don't lose power. They only enjoy life because their country will be wealthier than it is now. So we have decided to go for them and ask them to be part of us as well. Once we win over the civil servants, then Parliament will come along, then the executive will come along, then the judiciary will come along. But other than that, all those people, they are in power, yes, but the real power, we know where it is.
The private sector-led development. Thank you very much, Chair, for your conversation. It's always a passionate conversation with the Chair of the Private Sector Foundation Uganda. We are having our budget conversations, and we want to thank the Chair for his time today as we continue to look at the budget for financial year 2020-2021 amidst COVID-19.